Aura is really focused on sleep, but how does sleep help your mental health and your work? And it's constantly tying what my product or brand does into the rest of your life. And I think corporate packages are doing the same thing. It's like, how do we take care of the whole person rather than just, piece by piece? Hi, everyone. Welcome to Health, Wealth, and ROI, the podcast where we dive into the digital marketing trends, strategies, and money-driving practices that are reshaping the health and wellness industry. I'm Marina.
And I'm Jess. And we have seen way too many brands in our agency work investing ridiculous amounts of money in marketing strategies that are outdated and will not work right now.
And we've turned them around time and time again by identifying the missing pieces in their tech, talent, and tactics, what we call the 3 Ts.
We are all about amplifying the strategies that work and debunking the ones that don't work to give you an edge to stay ahead of industry competitors and watch those profit margins grow.
We know marketing, we know health and wellness, and we know you don't want to spend more than you have to keep your revenue growing. So let's get into it. All right, so one of the things that we love and simultaneously hate about marketing is that it is constantly changing. It makes it both exciting and also, I was going to say a pain in the ass. I guess we can't swear this first round, can we? Not yet. All right. So one of the things we love and simultaneously hate about marketing is that it is constantly changing. You really cannot sit on your laurels. You have to always be constantly looking at what's ahead because there's always something around the corner that is getting ready to make all of your current strategies not work. It's a game of constantly adapting to what is new and changing and making sure that your brand is staying up to date with everything that is happening. And one of the great times to kind of take inventory and have a little checkpoint in terms of where marketing is going is always at the end of the year looking into the new year. And so in 2025, there are lots of new technologies, things with AI, strategies, brands, messaging that is coming about that is going to become really vital for the health and wellness industry. And so what Jess and I have done today is take a look across all of our clients, across all the work that we're doing, where we're seeing everything going, and wrote all of these down, and also took a look at how they all apply to what's going on specifically in health and wellness, because that is such a booming industry right now, and all of these strategies and tactics absolutely apply to that industry immensely. So I have my ones that I've prepared here. Jess has yours. Why don't I start with the very first one? The first one I pulled from some of the work and the trends that we've been seeing is the rise of AI SEO and audio SEO. So, up until this point, SEO has been very keyword based. Google searches, when you search something, is pulling results off of keywords. And that has honestly completely shifted, really is starting kind of this year, but will even continue to be more so that way in the new year. And what's different about Google searches, which everyone has seen, is the generative AI feature that they bring. So generative AI is that summary at the top of a Google search that fully answers your question rather than just giving you links to another place that answers your question. And it basically focuses on user intent rather than specific keywords. So rather than just pulling out what it thinks is most relevant to the keywords that you put in, it's understanding your entire question and then summarizing the results that it's seeing online and giving you a synopsized answer for it. So with that, it really changes the way that we want to do content, both on social media and on our websites, rather than making sure blogs and social media captions and social media scripts are including keywords. You want to actually gear your content more towards full questions that people are searching, giving things like lists, step-by-step instructions, phrasing the questions that you know people are searching, rather than just aiming for those keywords. So I know, Jess, we've seen this kind of in all of our clients across all industries, but I think health and wellness is going to be even more relevant for it. And that thinking through popular searches and questions and general ideas rather than just keywords is going to be very big in 2025.
Yeah, there's even the AI option in Meta when you search in Facebook. It's the Meta AI. That is also popping up now, and brands have to be really ahead of their keyword strategy, because now there is, like you said, the AI software where we can plant blogs that are loaded with keywords into your website that's going to help those scroll, or help the bots scroll your website for those. But it also it stops you aren't landing on blogs as much anymore. When someone's searching on Google, the AI is answering the question for them. And in the health and wellness industry, a lot of times people will search. I mean, we've had this discussion before too, where it's like, I have this weird pain in my side, and now I need to look it up. And before, it would show you relevant like blog articles and like websites and things like that to go look for your answer. And now AI kind of answers it for you. So brands, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, when you brought up the AI search on social, I forgot about that. I thought what was so funny was that honestly, I feel like everyone hated it at the beginning. Like I was so annoyed that it kept turning my searches around. But then I think recently you were looking for something and you were like, this AI search is great. Like this is, I feel like we've come around to it more.
Yeah. Well, and digital, I mean, we saw the shift from print, like out of home marketing and print, which is still really relevant, but we've seen that huge shift to digital as social media platforms have really upped their game and marketing is changing. And now it's pivoting again, just like you said. It's like as soon as you get a strategy that is working, something changes. And that is a big change that's happening is the keyword, the SEO portion, while it's still relevant, it is shifting, like you said, to being less keyword, more intent specific, which also has to change the direction of your content to be captivating in a different way because it's not only keywords that are going to get someone to land on your page.
So just a quick actionable tip with this for brands. The way, DAL-E is a AI system that was developed by OpenAI, the makers of ChatGPT. The things that one combs through images and videos and other formats for all the information that you have in there. So we're not just talking blogs. We're talking about the graphics you put out, the videos you put out. AI is searching through all of it. And so structuring your content as lists, step-by-step instructions, and quick reference summaries are going to be the types of things that AI is going to want to pull and find and feed back to the user. Jess, why don't you talk me through number 2?
Okay, so this one is huge in the health, wellness, and fitness industry right now. And in the last year, has really just exploded. And it is the TikTok Shop affiliate program. Influencers are still relevant and are still important. But again, there's been a shift from how important they really are to getting your product out to the masses. And I'm seeing it a lot right now with health and wellness brands so the TikTok Shop program leverages affiliate marketing instead of influencer marketing. And fitness or health and wellness brands, if we're contrasting influencers to the TikTok Shop, it's an affiliate program. So all of these people are motivated because they get a commission from the sale, whatever sales they drive, which is different from a lot of influencer partnerships. But with TikTok Shop, you can't control the algorithm for your influencer content, but you could have a small creator, a micro creator on TikTok that, let's say they have 5,000 followers, depending on TikTok's always changing the requirements to get into the TikTok Shop creator program. But once they're in, they can have 5,000 followers and they can select your product, add it to their showcase. They can make content about that product without even you get to decide. You can send them the product, they can request a free sample, they can purchase it, whatever. But then these creators are motivated because they're getting the commission from that sale. So so you're reaching a broader audience. The return on investment on the TikTok Shop affiliate program is huge right now for health and wellness brands because people don't want to see one person using it. They want to hear from 500 people that are using it. And TikTok Shop right now is the fastest way to get it out in front of the masses for a really for a lower spend from companies for a really high return. And then the algorithm, you can put ad money behind it as well, but the algorithm takes those creators' content and soars it, as I hit that mic, and it soars that content, allowing you to reach a much broader audience with the affiliate program of TikTok versus just putting all of your, putting that spend in one influencer that you can't guarantee that their entire audience is even, number one, seeing their content, but is also a consumer for you.
Well, this goes into a little bit of the one that I had pulled as well, which is just the general move away from influencer marketing as much. So I think the TikTok Shop affiliate marketing is a huge tool, but also I've just noticed the rise of long form review content, and how people are leaning more into using that as their source of recommendations than influencer marketing. So the one I pulled out, for example, on this one is the Aura Ring 4, which just came out. They have had great marketing campaigns around that in the last few months. But it's being compared to, other wearables like Ringcon and Whoop on YouTube channels all over the place. And long form TikTok content as well. When I say long form, I mean more like over 2 minutes or so for TikTok. But that there's tons of people buying these products and reviewing them, and that consumers actually care more about those, hearing the genuine reviews and comparisons, than like the follower count or the notoriety of the actual person giving the review. So just to say, I think there's a ton of space still for influencer marketing, but really leaning more into UGC reviews and getting more volume out of it rather than just spending high spend on one big influencer with millions of followers will actually take brands a lot further in 2025.
Well, and I don't think that influencers or maybe all social media, it kind of, they're evolving, right? And I don't think they expected technology to come so far to be able to really analyze who their followers were on platforms, because that's becoming a huge part of influencer marketing. There's a space for it. But when we dig into, like now with all of the AI technology and software that's available, I can see how many of your followers are fake. I can see what your engagement is. I can see all of this, which doesn't make influencers irrelevant. But if we're talking sales, the return will be much higher on, yeah, like you said, long form content reviews in other places, and then leveraging, other affiliate marketing networks or things like that where there's motivation. We've also seen the influencer marketing pricing skyrocket because these influencers decided that they were just the most important thing in the whole world, because they were for a little while. That's like where everyone was getting their information. But now we're on a downslope of the influencers, and how there's still a place for them, but definitely that long form content is making a comeback.
I think some of it comes down to trust too. I think influencers boomed in 2020 during the pandemic when everyone was at home and on their phones. And then since then, there's been enough scandals, enough, problems surrounding influencers that they're really losing their crown, like I think you were just saying. So with that, I think brands are starting to shift their strategies according to that response.
I just recently had a challenge for one of our clients that you know this, Marina. We tried to see how many influencers could actually get their audience to attend an in-person event. And 90% of the influencers we talked to did not think they could get even 100 of their followers to an in-person event, because of it's just showing how little influence they actually have. And that's something brands have to consider. Also with health and fitness brands as well, I feel like it's so imperative to pick the right influencer, because their whole life is online. So if you're, depending on what your brand is, their lifestyle, they might have 1,000 followers of people that are going to want your product. But if their lifestyle doesn't reflect your brand's mission and message, it just doesn't work. So there's a lot of things to consider with that.
I just think from a brand perspective too, it's risky to wrap your brand up in someone else's image, like you're saying. Like you see, yeah, even on larger scales, like with Budweiser and with Kanye West's deal, like it can definitely backfire. So also just not putting your eggs in one basket, and UGC reviews does allow you to not take responsibility for anything really beyond that review in that person's life. Partnerships and things like that are kind of perceived a little bit differently, I think.
Yeah, and influencers, I feel like, are getting greedy, and they'll take a lot of partnership deals, but then some of them are conflicting, and it's like, they'll show a lifestyle brand and then they'll show a different brand that does not align with that, and so you almost have to pay more for that exclusivity, which is just harder to align with. Like people are less trusting now of influencers because they know they're getting paid instead of that like authentic connection.
And they're really good at picking out too when it's like a paid piece of content. It used to be able to fly under the radar a little bit more, but like no one's fooled anymore. Not in 2025.
Yep. And that
Okay.
kind of
Uh,
feeds,
Go ahead.
sorry, like the long form kind of feeds right into my next topic, which is TV advertising is making a comeback. I feel like for a while, everyone kind of stopped normal TV. Not everyone, but a large percentage stopped with like Dish Network and like actual hardwired TV programming and started streaming. And that's predominantly right now what's happening. But now streaming companies have a ton of different pricing models that are allowing or are pushing advertising again with their pricing models. So you can pay, a lower rate if you want commercials, or the higher rate if you don't want commercials. And their pricing structure is pushing advertising now because these streaming platforms need more money coming in. So the long form content is also making a comeback in TV advertising with streaming platforms. All of them now have, even Roku has its own advertising platform that you can have your ad be the one that pops up on when someone with Roku TV turns on their Roku or like turns on their whole TV. So long form in that way is now has a place. I mean, commercials and TV advertising never fully went away, but right now the TV streaming networks need that advertising money, so the advertising is less expensive, and you're reaching, again, like it's important to know the demographic you're reaching, because the younger kids that don't care, like they don't want to pay extra to not have to watch commercials, you are going to be hitting them. But then even me, I don't want to pay extra to watch commercials, but I will on some platforms, because TV advertisers now are also spreading the content across so many different streaming services, whereas it used to be consolidated more, I feel like. And now you have to have Paramount, you have to have Hulu, you have to have Netflix, like, because you need all of the shows. They're not in one place. So there's really a huge variety for that long form, more commercial style content. And the data that's available through these platforms about who the users are and what they're watching, you can really tailor who you're hitting with those advertisements through the TV platforms or the streaming platforms.
Well, and I think because there's so many streaming options, to the dismay of all the viewers, it does help you niche down a little bit too, by like what platform you're advertising on, what programs they have, who's watching those right now, what time of year it is.
Yeah.
So from an advertising perspective, it's nice to have a little bit more control over the audience it's getting in front of too, which I think is great.
Yep. And social played such a big form of connection for a long time, and it still does, but it's overwhelming to people now. Like I know a lot of people that are like, I'm taking a step back. Like it's overwhelming. Like we've seen a huge push too. So again, I feel like another shift is happening where people are looking for other sources to entertain them, and kind of like being more less influenced by the things that they're seeing on social, and looking for it in other ways as well.
Yeah, this is definitely one I want to keep an eye on too, because the streaming business model needs help. Like you said, they're losing money. It's really fractured right now. So I am curious too, just how it's going to evolve. But right now, there's still enough audience that is streaming. I don't think that's going to go anywhere. And the fact that they do need money is like an advertiser's best opportunity for getting in front of people. So
Yep.
curious to see how it evolves in the new year.
Yeah, well, and health and wellness brands as well. Like I've seen some really great commercials making a comeback that I don't know if you remember from a kid being a kid. There are some commercials that like I hear a jingle and I'm like, oh yeah, that was the Rice Krispie treat jingle or the Rice Krispie cereal jingle from when I was a kid. Like I think some of that nostalgia marketing that we've kind of talked about is happening through the commercials and through the streaming platforms.
For me, it was Mattress Discounters. I could sing that song. I would go around singing it around the house. My parents were like, what are you doing?"
Yep.
I love it. We should do a piece on that. Just old jingles and why they worked.
Yes, why they worked.
So the next one I have that I have noticed is the importance of growing an on-the-ground community. I'm going to skip around here actually a second. So one thing that's been changing a lot, right? We just talked about the pandemic and everything that's happened since pandemic, and pandemic was clearly, obviously, a huge shift to the virtual, to working from home, to streaming online, everything, coming into the digital space. Since then, there has been a huge need and desire and want to go back to in person and physical connection and physical community. Obviously, working from home and these digital spaces aren't going anywhere, but brands that are able to now leverage both, I think, have a one up in 2025. One of the exact examples I pulled from this is Squat Up, which is community-based workouts. There's lots of different brands that are kind of trying to facilitate and organize this, and this brand helps users discover local activities. And I think that's really a need. Even dating, I've noticed too. We're working with a dating app right now, and that dating has gone very much online, really pre-pandemic, but especially since then. And that now, in-person connection is getting to be more and more important. And so what this means for actually marketing is, one, segmenting your audience by location is, I think, more important than ever before. So making sure that you are putting out email blasts, advertisements, your marketing materials are going to location-specific audiences that tie in things in their physical world. And it doesn't feel just like a blast nationwide to all users of X app, that there's a local community-based element to it, as well as physically, using local events as a marketing tool. So in-person launches, pop-up events. We've seen a lot of brands that, show up in communities, physically talk to people. It's definitely scalable. It's not like you have to, stay within a local market if you're doing this strategy, but being able to be in your people's markets and in their communities, I think is more important in 2025 than in the past 4 years.
Well, and I think especially with health and wellness brands, usually there's so many questions connected with it. Whether it's a fitness brand, a health brand, a supplement brand, a product, a tool, an app, whatever it is, usually there's a lot of, first skeptical people that happen on these things, just because you hear over and over again, oh, I've tried so many things and da 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 da. So having like the in-person connection, or having like a place where people can literally ask questions, where they can try something, where they can see a sample, they can connect with other people, they can experience, that is going to drive the engagement factor of your business so much further, and you're going to get a lot more referrals, word of mouth, like people convicted in your mission because they've met someone in person, they asked questions, they tried to sample, or whatever. It's similar to, I see at the gym all the time, people setting up tables in the lobby of the gym, marketing their new product. All they want to do is just talk to you. They want to explain their product, they want to show it to you, they want to give you a sample, they want a place for you to ask your questions or things like that. So yeah, definitely building that community. And there's ways to do it if you don't have one local spot, because a lot of, with everything being digital, that can be hard. But a scaling strategy is, and the research that's available is definitely leveraging some hotter markets local and creating space for that.
Well, you can even leverage events that are already taking place. Like, you don't have to completely facilitate in-person things just completely with your own audience either. Like you were saying with the gym, there's marathons all around the country that have vendors, there's sports events, there's like, people are gathering more and more and more every year post-pandemic. And so just taking advantage of those places where your audience is going to be, I think is more important than not more important, but very, very strong in terms of just getting in front of them digitally. If you can get in front of them physically in any way, a lot of consumers are making decisions based off of that now.
And that kind of leads into, I'm going to skip my next one and I'll come back to it, but
okay,
leaning right into the corporate world, like we've been talking about, kind of post-pandemic, a lot of people went remote. And I feel like we saw good and bad. Like, I feel like a lot of people are now more open to the working from home, the remote work lifestyle. However, we did see that it's really isolating, and that some people need that in-person connection to thrive. So, in making sure that you're reaching all those demographics of people, like you're saying, in the community, the local events, the things like that, some people do better with people. And you're able to connect better. But going into the corporate side, health and wellness brands like have a huge opportunity to connect with, a little bit more of a B2B side for their company. But now corporate companies in general are implementing huge wellness plans like as benefits, or we've seen like Headspace offering like memberships to companies where it's all of their employees have access to this mental health, motivational app, and they have there is a huge space for brands to get in front of other businesses that want to take their corporate wellness to the next level. And so there's a huge opportunity for brands to get in on that B2B level and have their services or their product or their whatever offered to the masses through companies that can include them in their benefits package, and get in front of people that way as well, where you're not just going directly to the consumer. You can have a whole corporation that's partaking in your service now.
Well, and this goes into one that was an honorable mention that we talked about prior to this, but didn't make it to our list, which is that wellness in general, the messaging behind it is so much broader than it was in the past. So benefits for companies previously, were your typical medical coverage, and maybe a gym membership was kind of a progressive step forward. But now it's going into mental wellness and de-stressing and, how to just live a healthy lifestyle across the board. And so it's not enough to even just silo in on what it is your specific brand does, but talking about how, Aura is really focused on sleep, but how does sleep help your mental health and your work? And, it's constantly tying what my product or brand does into the rest of your life. And I think corporate packages are doing the same thing. It's like, how do we take care of the whole person rather than just, piece by piece?
Yeah, and brands have to stay ahead of it more so now, I feel like, with social, because social, especially TikTok, I feel like has really given a place for people to voice things that didn't have a place that they were kind of talked about before in the from workplace. So now, like corporations really have to stay ahead of all of those things, because it's just talked about more now. Workplace, hostility, or workplace, good things, or like red flags of a workplace, or green flags, it's being talked about a lot more, and more people are developing, they're realizing oh wait, well that company does this and this and offers this and this, and so while companies have to stay ahead, obviously, of their internal structures, but the wellness is a huge part of their benefits package. And just like you said, it's almost expected now to have something that you're offering. But then also, and I love what you said about how it's taking care of that whole person and all of their well-being, as what more than just benefits and a gym membership or things like that. But it kind of all feeds back into are they working remote? Do we need more in person? Do they need more, building that community in several ways? But yeah, the health and wellness industry has a huge opportunity because corporations have to focus on that so much right now to stay ahead as being an employer.
Well, and that reminded me too of, I just went into so I obviously use Aura and have been following what they're doing, but how there is a whole community aspect within that app, which you would think is this is my sleep tracker. Why would I need a whole community around it? But I feel like every brand is starting to see the need to, bring people together. It's also better for accountability, which is a huge part of just wellness in general. How do we hold each other accountable to staying on top of it, whether that's workouts, sleeping well, meditating. So every brand that is doing well currently has some sort of community component built into it.
Which kind of leads perfectly into my next topic, actually, which is data in the health and wellness industry. One challenge I think fitness, health, and wellness brands face is a lot of times their customer journey is a lot longer. The time that it takes for someone to see success from their product is longer than I bought a dress and I like my dress. It's beautiful. It's if you're buying supplements, okay, well now I've got to wait 30 days to even see if it's going to start helping. Or the Aura ring, while yes, it gives you that data right away, but you still have to implement, you have to put into action, all of these wellness and health and fitness brands, like is requiring the consumer to do something. It's not instant gratification, so their journey is a lot longer. So the communities that you're talking about is like a direct tactic to ensure that there is a place that's constantly touching this consumer, so that they're a customer for life. Like they're extending the lifetime value, but it also, which is a big key factor right now, is the data that we need to collect to extend that lifetime journey of our clients, the lifetime value of the customer. Because if they're dropping off, like, are they buying a supplement, and then are they buying again, or are they not buying again? Or did our business model, literally this morning I looked on my bathroom counter and there's a box of, it's a makeup brand, but their business model is, we'll send you all these products for free for 14 days, and whatever ones you don't like, you send back. And the box is sitting on my counter, and I liked two of the products, didn't like one of the products, but did I remember to send it back? No. So now I'm outside that 14-day window, and I had to pay for all the products, which is actually a brilliant business model, because they bank on that you're not going to remember to send it back, and then you're just going to keep the products. But having creative business models and having the data that you need to be able to extend that lifetime value, because the customer journey is longer. Like, they're not getting instant gratification. It requires them to put in effort. Maybe it's taking a pill every day, or like for the Aura Ring, you have to wear the Aura Ring. And then for it to make a difference, you have to implement what it's telling you, so that it can help your life. So I think that's a big thing for 2025, is making sure that you have the data systems, and a lot of places have apps. Like you said, the Aura Ring has the app, which is also collecting data on you. And that allows them to market to you. Like, let's say you're really struggling with sleep. Well, that knows it. And I don't know their like safety things. Like, I don't know what all they can target you from that data that's being collected there. But maybe, their next campaign is like, or a email blast that goes out is about, how to sleep better, or like habits to have healthier sleep, or whatever. Because now you're activated. You're like, oh my gosh, Aura knows me. It knew I needed the help, and now it's teaching me how to sleep better, and whatever it's doing. So having those systems in place that is getting that data for you, so that you can, you need the data for new people coming in, but that data to extend the lifetime value of your clients is really critical right now, to make sure your product stays front of mind, and they're not like, oh, it was okay, but I want to go look for something else. You want to be able to keep them and really activate them in your product.
Yeah, so when you talk about, collecting that data, and I know that has some, there's controversy around it, and there's privacy policies and things like that, but it's nothing new to advertising, right? It's such an integral part of marketing. So you were talking about the apps, like using apps, leveraging apps, that keeps people connected. You have multiple ways of getting in touch with them on an app. I think it also goes into back-end systems, which is things that we audit a lot for the companies that we work with in our agency. And that often there's a lot of holes in terms of what they're actually tracking through, and being able to really have a clear map of that customer journey. And there's obviously, that's a little complex and not something we can just throw out here for someone to go set up tomorrow. But it is true, the way that all of your systems are integrated through, your email softwares, where you're advertising, the data that's getting fed in from there, all of the back-end behavior on your website. It's something that is a little bit of a beast to really get perfect, which is usually what we're brought in for, is, making things, getting everything linked back up together. But you see immediately the return on investment for it, because you just have so much more. Your customer journey is better. Your ROI on ad spend is better. It's just something that's so worth putting in the effort and time to make sure is as buttoned up as could possibly be.
Yeah, we see every single day, we see brands that will reach out and be like, we want to run this ad. We want to run this ad. But the next problem is, but we need to see how much this is, how many, what's the word? Like, what the ROAS is. We need to be able to see this. And so many of these clients do not have that back end tracking set up to have clear results. And then you hear again, marketing doesn't do anything. It's not delivering any results. when in reality, it's just that the results don't have the right attributions. So you can't see where they're coming from because the back end data isn't tracking properly. So, I mean, we see it all the time. Brands want to run ads on social, but they don't have the tracking set up. So yes, they can get some sales, but there's not clear data, which is one of the most frustrating things I think for CFOs and people that have to audit these marketing departments, because they want to see the data, and unless that there's clear streams for that, I would say that's more important than running that ad. Like, you need the data first before you go to run the ads or before you go to start that campaign, so that you have clear data to be able to move forward on those decisions.
I think we should probably do a whole episode dedicated to that. What does it mean to have good data
Yeah.
across everything? Because it's a lot.
How to get data that your CFO actually wants. Because it's a whole process.
Well, it's better for the CFO, but it's better for the marketers too, because I feel like, every marketer knows what it is to have to constantly validate your work and your effort to people who just don't get it. So that's one of the big holes that we help fix, is that marketing teams need to be able to prove all the value that they're bringing to the table, because it's a lot. Marketing is very important. So with that, I want to just do a little bit of a recap, because we talked through a whole bunch of topics. But these are some of the main, key points that we think. There can obviously be more. There's so much that changes constantly. But some of the main things that really focusing on in the new year that's going to bring a lot of return for brands. So we started with talking about the use of AI and AI SEO and generative AI, and structuring your content to be more idea and question and inquiry oriented rather than keyword focused. We talked about the move away from influencer marketing and about the rise in TikTok Shop affiliate marketing, the rise in UGC reviews and long-form content, and how consumers trust that format a lot more than your traditional influencer with millions of followers. We talked about advertising on streaming services, how they need the money, there's big space, there's still lots of viewers, and that there's a lot more advertising opportunities opening up because of the streaming model, and how they're moving away from just paid subscriptions and offering those free ones that allows you to advertise, get in front of more people. We talked about the importance of growing an on-the-ground community and being present in local spaces for people, and how you can leverage other brands, other events, gyms, pop-up events, launch events, things like that, to physically get in front of your customers. And then we talked about corporate wellness. So being able to leverage the B2B side, and how companies are really structuring their benefits packages around taking care of a whole person, and how framing some of your either offerings or services or subscriptions as the perfect fit for companies that are looking for those types of things is going to be a really great in 2025, a potential very strong revenue stream. And lastly, the importance of collecting data across everything you're doing, using apps, using tracking, all the back-end systems that need to be in place. Like I said, we can get way more into that, but really just overall putting it in people's minds that you need to focus on this in 2025. You probably needed to focus on it in 2024, but it's only getting more and more important in 2025. Is there anything I left out, Jess, or any last things we need to throw in there?
No, I don't think so.
I think that's a good start. The conversation goes much further beyond this, so definitely stay in touch, social media, follow us on everywhere you get your podcasts, and we'll be back for more marketing in health and wellness.